The card arrived on a Tuesday, nestled between a utility bill and a glossy circular for a hardware store. It was not an invitation, but an addendum, printed on thick, unforgiving ivory stock, the same kind I had helped Kala choose for the main invitations weeks ago. Its text was rendered in an elegant, merciless script. In consideration of family dynamics, your presence at the ceremony of Kala Vance and Julian Croft is respectfully requested via the provided live stream link. A web address followed. Nothing more. No signature, no love. Just a sterile corporate directive disguised as a courtesy. It was a surgical strike, delivered by the mailman. My hand, the one holding the card, began to tremble, a faint tremor that started in my fingertips and radiated up my arm. I was Laura Vance. I was 48 years old, a historical preservationist who spent her days piecing back together the fractured histories of New Orleans. But I could not seem to piece this together. Kala, my only child, the daughter I had shielded from the world's cruelties after her father, Damien, vanished into the city's humid ether like a phantom. I had worked not 3 jobs, but a relentless string of them, waitressing in the quarter until my feet swelled, cataloging dusty archives in the Garden District, giving architectural tours under the punishing Louisiana sun. Every dollar earned was a brick in the wall I'd built around her, a fortress to protect her future, to nurture her dreams of becoming an artist, while my own ambitions were carefully packed away in cedar chests like old linens. And for this, to be relegated to a screen, a spectator at the life I had single-handedly funded? The silence of my small Creole cottage, usually a comforting embrace, now felt suffocating. On the cypress table, lovingly restored by my own hands, sat the wedding binder. Its pages were a testament to my devotion. The venue, a historic courtyard dripping with wisteria and secrets. I had secured the deposit. The dress, a cascade of lace and hope, was paid in full. The jazz band, famous for their shrimp and grits, the florist who promised cascades of magnolias and gardenias, all of it filtered through me, paid for by me. The sting in my chest wasn't just pain, it was a white-hot bewilderment. I didn't cry. Tears felt like a surrender. Instead, a cold resolve began to crystallize in my veins. This was not the act of my daughter alone. I recognized the subtle, venomous artistry of her father, a man who could charm a snake and then sell it your own wallet. I picked up the phone, my fingers hovering over Kala's contact, then stopping. No. An electronic dismissal deserved an electronic response. My response, however, would be far from silent. One by one, I dialed the numbers from the binder. Cathay Amelie. Catering. Hi, this is Laura Vance, regarding the Croft-Vance wedding. Yes, I need to cancel the service. A pause. Ma'am, the wedding is 3 days away. We've already procured the ingredients. I understand, I said, my voice unnervingly calm. But the primary benefactor is no longer attending. Therefore, the funds are no longer available. Click. Next, the florist. Then the band. The string quartet for the ceremony. The photographer whose artistic eye Kala had adored. With each call, a piece of my dignity returned. It was not revenge. It was a lesson in foundations. You cannot build a beautiful house on rotten pilings. You cannot host a celebration of love when you have just amputated its most loyal practitioner. That night, my phone was a black, silent rectangle on the bedside table. I ate a simple dinner of red beans and rice, read a chapter of a book on Gothic revival architecture, and fell into a dreamless sleep. The storm broke at dawn. When I switched my phone on, it convulsed in my hand, a frantic, shrieking thing. 59 missed calls from Kala, 3 voicemails from her fiancé Julian, each more panicked than the last. I didn't listen. I let the notifications pile up like unread indictments. For 22 years I had answered her every call, soothed her every fear. For once, she could experience the unnerving chill of silence. The quiet of my sanctuary held until 9 a.m. A sharp, insistent knock rattled the old cypress door. I ignored it. A second volley, louder, angrier. Peeking through the antique lace curtains, I saw him, Julian. He stood on my porch, his bespoke suit looking rumpled, his usually placid face a mask of agitation. I opened the door a crack. "Alara," he began, words tumbling out. "Thank God, she's beside herself. We have to talk." My voice was placid, a calm sea over a dangerous reef. "Is my daughter with you?" He shifted his weight. "No, she's at the venue, or what's left of it. The caterer is gone. The florist says the order was canceled. The band won't even answer our calls. It's a catastrophe." I raised a single eyebrow. "Why?" He looked at me, utterly stunned by the question. "Why?" "Because you canceled everything. Do you have any idea what this is going to cost us to fix now?" I pulled the door open wider, stepping fully into the frame. My calm was a weapon he hadn't anticipated. "Julian, I didn't cancel your wedding. I canceled the checks I wrote. The thousands of dollars I paid. I did so after receiving a formal notice that my presence was not required. So I rescinded my financial presence as well." His mouth opened and closed like a fish. He was a good man, but a weak one, easily swept up in the currents of stronger personalities. It was a misunderstanding," he stammered. "Kala was stressed. You know how she gets." "Oh, I do," I said, a flicker of iron in my tone. "I know exactly how she gets. I also know who she gets it from." I paused, letting the implication hang in the humid air. "Did she send you here?" "No." "Well, yes. She's not ready to talk to you." "Ah," I said, the sound soft but sharp. "So I'm good enough to bankroll the fantasy, but not worthy of a conversation." "Tell Kala this, Julian. When she is ready to speak to me as the adult woman I raised her to be, she knows where to find me. Until then, I hope she enjoys the wedding she has chosen." I closed the door, the definitive click echoing in the sudden silence. My heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic drummer in the concert hall of my chest, but for the first time in 2 decades, it was not a rhythm of fear. It was the beat of a war drum. By evening, the digital siege had escalated. 87 missed calls, a barrage of frantic texts. I ignored them all, finding solace in the tangible soil of my garden, pruning my overgrown jasmine vine. But I knew the quiet was a temporary truce. Just as dusk began to bleed purple and orange across the sky, a sleek black SUV, ostentatiously out of place on my quiet street, screeched into my driveway. Kala erupted from it, a storm in a designer dress. She hammered on the door before I could even turn the knob. "What the hell did you do?" she shrieked the moment I opened it, shoving past me into the living room. "I responded to your correspondence," I said, closing the door and turning to face her. My living room, my sanctuary, suddenly felt like a courtroom. "You're ruining everything. Everything is gone. What are people going to think tomorrow?" "Perhaps," I said, my voice barely a whisper, "perhaps they'll think, where is her mother?" She froze, the words hitting her like a physical blow. The anger in her face began to crumble, replaced by a flicker of something else. Guilt. Tears welled in her eyes. I didn't mean for you to feel uninvited, humiliated, erased." I supplied the words she couldn't find. "You asked for a perfect day, Kala, and I was giving it to you. All I asked for in return was to be there, and you, or whoever's whispering in your ear, told me to stay home." She sank on the edge of a velvet armchair,
the fight draining out of her. I was overwhelmed. I was mad at you for criticizing Julian's expensive upgrades, and her voice broke. And instead of talking to me, you sent an execution order, I finished softly. So I made my move quietly, not to scream or to fight, but to make you understand. Love is not a resource to be tapped, Calla. It's a relationship to be honored. She looked up, her face a mask of youthful despair. Mom, she whispered, her voice trembling. I don't know what to do. The wedding is tomorrow and it's all gone. No, I said, sitting opposite her. You didn't ruin everything. You still have a choice. What choice? You can have your wedding, I said.
Would be too stressful for you both to be there. He thought you'd be happier watching from home without the drama. Dad! The casual, trusting way she said it was a knife in my heart. He had already poisoned the well. I saw his plan now, with chilling clarity. Isolate me, replace me, and take credit for the beautiful life I had built for our daughter. My voice was steady, betraying none of the seismic chaos erupting inside me. What exactly did he promise you, Calla? She finally met my eyes, a desperate hope shining through her tears. He said he would cover all the last-minute things Julian wanted. The fireworks display, the upgraded champagne, the cocktail bar. He told me you'd be upset about the cost, so he was just helping, taking the stress off you. Taking the stress off me. I had to close my eyes for a moment, counting to 5 to keep the rage from boiling over. This was his signature move, grand, empty gestures designed to dazzle and in debt. What did he tell you about why he left all those years ago? I asked. She shrugged, a gesture of a child trying to believe a fairy tale. He said he was sick, that he had to get himself clean before he could be a real father. A sharp, bitter laugh escaped my lips before I could stop it. Sweetheart, your father's sickness wasn't in his body. It was in his soul. He was addicted to the thrill of the gamble, and he was cruel when he lost. I knew I still had the faint scar above my eyebrow from a night he'd lost big at a back-alley poker game and blamed me for his bad luck. People can change, she whispered, pleading. Change is proven with actions, not with words, I said gently. Has he actually paid for any of this, or has he only promised to? A faint blush crept up her neck. He gave the venue a check yesterday for the entire remaining balance. A cold dread washed over me. A familiar premonition, a personal check, Calla. She nodded. From which bank? I don't know. I didn't look. Of course she hadn't. She saw a father. I saw a calm man setting his final trap. If that check bounced after I had already withdrawn my own funds, the entire event would implode, humiliating her in front of hundreds of people. Mom, I'm so sorry for the email, she sobbed, the dam of her composure finally breaking. I was panicking about the budget, and then he just showed up like an answer to a prayer. He said he would handle everything. I know, I said, kneeling in front of her and taking her trembling hands. And now we will handle it together. But first, we verify that check, right now. Her eyes widened. Will you come with me? The drive to the downtown bank branch was a blur of streetlights and rising panic. The teller took a copy of Damien's check and disappeared into the back. The minutes stretched into an eternity. Finally, a stern-faced branch manager emerged, his expression grim. Miss Vance, he said, his voice devoid of emotion. The account associated with this check was closed 6 months ago due to excessive overdrafts. Calla's legs gave out. I caught her, guiding her to a bench. The truth was a physical blow, knocking the air from her lungs. He lied, she whispered, her face a canvas of horror. He lied about everything. I smoothed her hair back from her forehead. Yes, he did, but we can still fix this. We have to move fast. How? She cried. Your money is gone. His money never existed. It's over. I glanced at my watch, 3:47 p.m. No vendors will work if they're paid. I have a preservation fund savings I never touched. It's for emergencies. This qualifies. She stared at me, astonished. After what I did, you would still... Because I love you more than my pride, I said simply. But there is a condition. You will call every single vendor. You will apologize, and then you will call your father, and you will set a boundary. Tell him he can attend as a guest, but nothing more. The performance is over. For the next hour, my car became a war room. With trembling hands, Calla made the calls. This is Calla Vance. I'm so sorry. There was a payment issue. Yes, a significant one, but the funds are being wired now. Can you still deliver? One by one, with penalty fees attached, the wedding was resurrected. My preservation fund, my life savings bled out with every wire transfer. At 5:12 p.m., the last confirmation came through. Calla leaned back, exhausted but relieved. Now, the last call, I said softly. She dialed Damien's number. It rang twice before his booming, false, jovial voice filled the car speakers. "Princess, getting ready for the big day?" Calla's voice was steel. "Dad, I went to the bank. The check bounced." A beat of silence, then a sputtered laugh. "Impossible. A clerical error, I'm sure." "It's not a mistake," she said, her voice gaining strength. "You lied. Mom is the one who just saved this wedding." His tone turned ice. "Your mother, of course. She's already turned you against me." "No," Calla said, a tear tracing a path down her cheek. "She protected me. You're welcome to attend tomorrow, but that's all. No drama." He was silent for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was a low growl. "I see. I'll be there, but this isn't over." He hung up. As we pulled away from the bank, Calla's phone lit up with a text from him. A preview flashed on the screen. "If your mother wants a show, the whole city will be watching." My blood ran cold. He wasn't bluffing. Trouble didn't just follow Damien. It was his business partner. The rehearsal dinner was a tense affair. Damien arrived late, striding into the venue's courtyard like a conquering hero, a smirk playing on his lips. He moved through the crowd, his gaze locking onto me. "Well, well," he boomed loud enough for everyone to hear. "The heroic ex-wife trying to erase the past." Gasps rippled through the guests. Calla froze. I met his gaze across the room, my spine a rod of steel. "You wrote a bad check, Damien. That's not the past. That's fraud." He laughed, a harsh, ugly sound. "A temporary cash flow problem, but I'll make it right. Tonight I'll cover everything. Cash, on one condition." He raised his glass. "Elara apologizes right here for poisoning our daughter against me." The room was silent. I felt 100 pairs of eyes on me. I walked to the center of the courtyard, my voice ringing with clarity. "No." Just then, the venue manager stepped forward, holding a clipboard. "Actually, Mr. Walker, your bounce check voided your contract unless a new deposit of $20,000 is posted tonight. The event is canceled effective at midnight." Damien's grin was wolfish. He knew I had already drained my savings. He had me trapped. "Time's ticking, Elara." And then a calm, crisp voice cut through the tension. "Perhaps I can be of assistance." A man in a perfectly tailored charcoal suit stepped out of the shadows. He was a stranger to me, but the silver crest on his lapel was unmistakable. The emblem of Greystone Private Banking, an institution so exclusive it was practically mythical. "Mr. Sterling," the venue manager breathed, shocked. Mr. Sterling smiled politely. "Elara Vance and I have never met, but my firm was the benefactor for the Britannia Theatre Preservation Project she led last year. Her integrity is well documented." He opened a sleek briefcase, revealing a cashier's check. "This should cover the deposit, and I believe I speak for everyone when I say this gift is conditional on Mrs. Vance being the one to walk her daughter down the aisle tomorrow." The courtyard erupted in applause. Damien's face was a thundercloud of fury. Security, summoned silently by the venue, flanked him. "This isn't over, Maggie," he snarled as they escorted him out. I knew he was right. The money was settled, but his hunger for chaos was not. The morning of the wedding was a battle of nerves. Calla, pale but resolute, asked me to walk her down the aisle. As we stood outside the bridal suite, word came that Damien was at the main entrance, waving a manila envelope and screaming that he had proof of my lies that had to be read before the ceremony.
He's claiming he has a court order that proves you forged documents to keep him from his custody rights, the security chief told me. I knew it was a lie, another desperate performance. I left Kala in the suite and walked out to face him one last time. He stood there, phone in hand, ready to live stream his final pathetic act. "What lies, Damien?" I asked, my voice carrying over the nervous murmurs of the early guests. He waved the envelope. "The lies on her birth certificate, the letters you hid." "You mean the single letter you sent 9 years after you disappeared? The one with no return address and no apology?" I turned to the small crowd. This man abandoned his 7-year-old daughter. He returned 20 years later with a fake check and a storm of threats. Now he wants to ruin her wedding day because she chose dignity over his drama. A murmur of support went through the crowd. Brett appeared at my side just then. A police cruiser called by the venue pulled up. Faced with actual authority, Damien's bravado finally shattered. He spat one last impotent threat and fled. An officer took the envelope. Minutes later, he returned it. "It's empty, ma'am. Just blank paper." Of course it was. His power was never in proof, only in the fear he could create. When the music started, I took Kala's arm.
Together we walked down the aisle past the faces of those who had witnessed the fight and into the light at the altar. She squeezed my hand and whispered, "Thank you, Mom." At the reception, Kala took the microphone. Her voice was clear and strong. "I once asked the woman who gave me everything not to come today. She came anyway, and she didn't just save the wedding, she saved me. To every child, don't wait for a disaster to see who is truly in your corner." She raised her glass to me, and the entire room rose with her. Later, as Brett and I shared a dance, I watched Kala laughing, her face radiant. All the missed calls, the threats, the empty envelopes, they had all been noise. The love was the signal, quiet and true. As the newlyweds drove off into the night under a shower of confetti, I stood on the steps until their taillights disappeared. Back in my quiet cottage, the silence was no longer lonely. It was peaceful. I opened my journal and wrote a single line before turning out the light. Some things are not meant to be restored. They are meant to be replaced by something stronger, built on solid ground. And for the first time in a long, long time, I slept without listening for the sound of a coming storm.